Hey everybody, Austin Walsh coming in from Chicago. Just had an absolutely amazing day in Philadelphia yesterday. It was a total blast to go to a city that has so much history, and like they kept playing so many jokes. Man, George Washington was here. I was like, well, George Washington was all over Philadelphia, but it was an absolutely amazing time. I had the honor to speak at Villanova University last night, so it was quite. An eye opener for me that how crazy some of these universities are, and also how it was a total blessing to speak. So I was flying home today, and I wasn't sure if I was going to Vegas or Chicago yet, and it looks like I'll be going to Vegas to train at CEO Space tomorrow instead of today. So I got to hang out and in Chicago today with my mother and have a nice day by the pool until we got rained on, but it was fun. And while I was flying home, I kind of thought about, you know, should we have a guest speaker tonight or should we talk? Because I had a guest speaker lined up in my dad, and I thought, we've done a few guest speakers the last few weeks, and I figured, hey, you know what? I kind of want to just go on a rant tonight. And I spoke in Philadelphia last night on a subject that I've never really talked about before, and I sold a program I've never even sold on before, a program I've been to many, many times. Doesn't matter what it is, but it was a great talk, and I think people learned a lot. And so I'm not exactly going to go through the same thing tonight, but I really want to talk about, what is the state of the internet today, and then what is the state of business today, and kind of correlate these two things into a whole mix of a great training session, in my opinion. So I don't know how long we'll go for. I don't know if we'll go for 30 minutes or 2 hours, but if you have questions, feel free to post them in Skype or post them in the chat, and I'm going to get to them. So I want to start off with, talking about how I realized how you can make a lot of money, right? And so for those of you that don't know, when I first started my company, I started throwing parties. And at 15 years old, I was a pretty well-known DJ in the South Side of Chicago. And long story short, I gained a pretty big following by throwing parties in my mom's basement. And from there, moved on to venues, and I threw a Sweet 16 party, and I had 400 kids show up for free. After that, I decided that, hey, I could probably make some money doing this, right? I could probably make some money throwing these massive parties, right? I figure 400 kids, 20 bucks, that's $8,000 a night. That's a pretty good night. And I started working on, how am I going to get, 200 or 300 people to show up at an event, right, and charge $20. And so at the time, Facebook just came out. I put it on Facebook, and it was timing, right? And so the first thing is that, and then I kind of want to go over, is that whatever that you're doing, you have to have good timing. And I really do mean that. Like if you just jump into things, whether it's a relationship or a business or planting a garden even, if you have bad timing, it's going to fail. Well, back to the party business, I had great timing. Now, I got into a point where no one was throwing these kind of parties, and kids were 16 years old, so you know what they wanted to do, and at the exact same time, no one was using social media to promote things. And I was the first one to get behind something and really, use a Facebook event to promote a large event. And within a few weeks, we have over 1,000 confirmed guests, and a few weeks after that, we have 1,500 confirmed guests, and it's quite the big ordeal happening in a very short period of time. The business principles, of course, I almost got, with the venue originally booked, the guy tried to screw me on the deal, and we had to switch venues at the last minute. It all worked out perfectly, and we had 1,000 kids show up at this party in the south side of Chicago in Tinley Park at this little place called Mojo's. And what happened was I made a lot of money. That was cool. But more importantly, one of the things I want to talk about tonight is this word called community, right? And when I initially started speaking, my entire talk was pretty much based around Facebook and community, and I've really gotten away from that, but I wanted to talk about communities a bit tonight. And the reason my party was so good is because I created a community of kids that, from different high schools that could get together and network and become part of a larger community. And so I realized it was a pretty powerful thing. Now, you have to think in your own business, first off, what kind of a community are you creating, right? And my goal, of course, Success Room has always been to create a community. Now, has it done exactly what I wanted to do? No. Will it? Yeah, I think so. But you have to start looking at what is the model that you're using to create a massive community. And I really do mean that. So think about that. And what I want to do now is actually literally run down some of these sites that have been created as just community for a small niche group that have blown up. So if you want to think about the first one, of course, it was MySpace. MySpace was a community for 18-year-old kids to get on and musicians to go on and post their music and kids to follow it. It was sold for quite a few $100 million. After that, you had a company called Facebook. Pretty simple, college site. Really wanted to put the college students in touch with their teachers and be able to share photos. Community, community, community. If you fast forward a bit, Twitter, being able to share news at light-breaking speeds and being able to connect with people in a private setting and be able to say whatever you want, right? Would have no filter. A massive community, right? Sold for, now they're going to be a public company and worth billions of dollars. Same thing. Now you have Instagram. Now you have Snapchat. So the point of the message here is, guys, is that what kind of a community are you creating? And you really have to think about that and write down and figure out, the community I'm creating is, the goal of it is this, this, and this. I mean, I'll give you an example. The goal of the Success Room is to create a community of like-minded entrepreneurs from all over the world that can get connections to grow their businesses. Very, very simple, right? I mean, that really is my entire goal. It's not as much to train and teach you and yada, yada, yada. I can do that all day long. But it really is for you to get connected with other people, right? I don't think people realize that when they buy the course, but as you go through it, and you meet one or two or three of the right people, it can impact your business quite a bit. And so we're going to work on doing even more of that. So community is the first part, right? And if you think about it, it's the part that I think most business owners absolutely miss out on, right? And so when I think about what happens next, right? So this my party business is going pretty well, right? And it was doing good numbers and doing well, and all of a sudden, like 6 months, about 10 months into it, there started to become a decline, right? And I'm wondering why. Why is there a decline, right? And it was really simple. We were trying to do the same thing over and over again without having much success, right? And so without having much success, it wasn't being a big winner. And so if you think about, how is that all going to work in tandem, you have to really think about, how can you reinvent yourself consistently while having more people come to your courses and stuff like that. So think about this, right? I was doing these parties over and over again and expecting the same people to come to the same beach and the same exact thing. And what I realized is that there's going to be a drop-off. And so it happened very fast in a very short period of time, and I reinvented myself. I started doing bands. Now, bands were a way to bring in a whole new stream of revenue and a whole new different type of person. So if you have your community, right, you think about, sometimes how it starts off, you're going to have to shift it. You're going to have to change it. You're going to have to switch it up a little bit. I started doing multi-level parties. So we started doing bands and DJs, and all of a sudden the company started growing again, and people started showing up again. It comes back to that reinventing yourself period. So you have to realize that you might start as one thing, but you're going to change consistently, and you have to be able to welcome change and sharpen that axe constantly. So anyway, that was cool, and you know what? We were doing great numbers, and it brings me to the next part, right? Is that what most small businesses totally forget about and don't go in is two things. They forget about a capital and a plan. Now, the reason my party business ended up ultimately failing after, I wouldn't call it a failure. I mean, it made a ton of money, and I probably let it die. But I would say the reason that it died is because I didn't have, let me rephrase that, capital, plan, and team. So I had capital, but I didn't have a plan and a team. So you have to think about your first goal as a business owner is how are you going to get that capital, right? And the problem is most of us as we start don't have any working capital. So I need you to write this down or do something, or I don't know, put it in your head, is that your first goal is should be able to get to a $10,000 a month in working capital. So that means you have $10,000 in gross revenue a month that pays the bills and allows you to run the business. I don't care how you do it. I don't care if it's 2 clients or 10 clients or 100 clients at $100 a month. that should be your goal, because then you become a business and not a hobby, and there is a massively huge difference, right? So a hobby is someone that does something a few hours a day and makes 50 or 60 grand a year and calls it their business. That's not a business, that's a hobby. And so you have to think the first goal is that create that massive community, and from there get to the point that you have working capital that can grow the business. Now, the reason the party business ended up failing was not the capital, was because the plan and the team. And this is so important. You have to realize that most of us as business owners, what we do is very, very simple. We just start a business and just start running around saying we're going to do this, 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 and this. And we think it's going to work, right? We're going to go get X amount of customers, yada, yada, yada. My community's this. At the end of the day, we're going to get our asses kicked 99 times out of 100, because someone else that we're going against in the very same niche has a plan that says, no matter what happens, we're going to do this, this, and this. And I was talking about this in Philadelphia last night. I said, Lily, you should have a plan that if you don't get this deal, you go this way. And so that really means taking out the next 2 years of your life and putting it on paper, saying no matter what happens, this is where I'm going to go, and make it so that you have an absolute, complete focus on exactly what you're going to do. The next part is the team. I mean, I've had so many companies fail because of the fact that I had a shitty team. I mean, I'll just be really honest, right? And so if you don't have a solid team in place, and here's the most important thing. I know in this group especially that a lot of us are what we call solopreneurs. We're doing it on our own. And it's such a mistake to do, right? I mean, it really is. You need to have it. I mean, if you think about launching these internet companies, doing all these types of things that you guys want to do, building these massive communities, you have to have a strong, solid team. And so whether that team be the successor, whether that team be someone that becomes a small percentage partner, whatever, no matter what it is, someone that you pay to be on your team. I don't care what it is. You need to have a team that can bring you back up when you're down, and secondly, hold you accountable when you're really screwed up, right? or hold you accountable when you're not doing things. And it's so massively important to do those few things. And so let me just check the chat really quick. All right, seems like we're good. Sorry, I told you tonight was going to be a fun rant. been a fun few days in awesome land. So if you think about it, you have to have the plan, you have to have capital, and you have to have the team. Now, let's get back to the plan. The plan with the plan. Sorry, someone's blowing up my phone. The plan really comes into the place of the systems that you have to have in place. Now, the reason why all these small businesses fail is because you don't have a plan, but more importantly, we don't even have the systems in place. I was talking in Philly last night, and I asked, why do you guys think McDonald's succeed? And everyone just said, I don't know, they probably have a plan. And it's really simple. When you open up a McDonald's, you have to go to McDonald's University down in Bloomington or somewhere really further south, Illinois, and you spend 6 months there going through training on exactly how to run that business successfully, down to the location that you pick out, down to every single thing of how the burger is made, down to who you would hire. I mean, you really learn the complete system to make that thing successful. Same with Subway, same with Jimmy John's. Now think about the guy that opens up a burger shop on the corner of 7th Street. What that guy does is open up a burger shop, open the doors, put some flowers out there, and then put some signs on the street and pass out some postcards, and then start cooking burgers, hoping that people will show up. And if you look at the difference between those two, it's night and day. And the reason why that small business is failing constantly is because they have no systems in place to make sure we're successful. So last night I talked about something that's massively important I think everyone should start doing, and something I just started recently doing that's really helped me kick some ass. And it's really simple. It's called 10 before 10. And I actually do 10 before 1 because, listen, I stay up later and I, whatever. I've had a lot of success, so I don't work as hard as I used to. Anyway, 10 before 10, or if you've already done really well, you can do 10 before 1. Either way is fine. But the point of this is really, really simple, is that when you set an objective to do 10 things before 10 o'clock. So for instance, if you're brand new, you should do 10 sales calls. If you're brand new in the business and you're trying to get clients, you're trying to get customers, you should have 10 sales calls set up before 10 o'clock in the morning. And do that 5 days a week. Now just imagine, even if it wasn't that, let's say you're working on building out your funnel, right? and you haven't had the autoresponder done. Well, then you should get 10 out of the emails. Let's say your autoresponder is 50 emails long or 40 emails long. It should take you literally 4 days to finish it, right? Because you should be able to crank out 10 of those emails 4 days in a row. And so if you could set a goal to do 10 objectives before 10 a.m., you're going to be massively more successful in the fact that you're going to be more productive. And I really do believe that if you talk about creating the perfect day, it starts with what you're doing in the first 4 hours of the day. I've been weirdly waking up at 6 a.m. these last 2 weeks, and I've been doing the 10 before 10, even though I'm going to keep telling everyone I'm doing 10 before 1 because it sounds much cooler. Inside joke. But if you think about how do you create that perfect day, it starts with your actions the second that you get up, right? And so you really need to figure out whatever business that you're in or wherever phase you're at, what are the 10 things you're going to do before 10 o'clock every single morning. For those of you who are building products, or working on new companies, there are so many. I mean, literally, in a month, you could have everything done if you were to be productive enough. Now, this gets me to another point. I promise you, I told you tonight was going to be a rant. But this brings me to the next point, is that most of us as business owners, myself included, I started out this way and I've gotten much better at it over the years. We think we're productive and we think we're doing really great things and yada, yada, yada. And in all honesty, most of us are just busy. And there is such a big difference between being busy and being productive. Right? And so if you think about, what does a busy person do? Right? Let's say a busy person was doing 10 before 10. What he would do is wake up and pull out the yellow book. Let's say you were selling a plumbing service, right? And he would get out the white book. He'd get out whatever the phone book and just start calling random people, seeing if they needed service, right? That's being busy. That's not being productive at all. Now, someone that's productive has some kind of a funnel set up, if you're this plumber, right, has some kind of a funnel set up to get qualified leads or has some way of finding out people that actually need help and then doing those 10 calls or even 5 of those calls, because those calls are going to be so much more productive than calling 10 random people. It's the same thing with us. I mean, I would even say in this group, I would say 60 to 70, probably even 80% of us are just busy all the time. And I could call out so many people that have been just busy instead of being productive work. I mean, realistically, it takes 6 months to a year to build out a full product and do a launch, right? And that's quite a bit of time. So I know there's been people in this group for 2 years that have still yet to release their product, right? And so we have to focus on stop being busy and start being productive. And I think it goes back to starting with starting that day perfectly and doing 10 before 10. So anyway, that's the rant on that. All right, let me see where I wanted to go next in this fun conversation. So the next part is that the problem with, or the challenge with so many entrepreneurs is that we start to get this thing called self-doubt. And self-doubt is probably one of the worst things in the world to kill an entrepreneur, and I mean that. So I'll give you an example, right? When I first started my business, and I'm sure most of you know this, I was 16, let's say 17 years old when I really started my first business, not throwing parties. Not saying throwing parties wasn't a business, it definitely was. But when I started the internet business, all of my friends very clearly said, "Why are you doing this?" And the problem is that when you get people in your ear, right, and you get a bunch of people in your ear telling you why you shouldn't do this, why you shouldn't do that, yada yada yada, it's really simple. What happens is you're going to lose focus. And for me, it gets to the point where you literally have to change your voicemail on your cell phone and get rid of these negative people. And it's really simple how you do it. All you do is you change your voicemail to, "Hey, I'm making some major changes in my life, and if I don't call you back, you must be one of them." Right? And so and I hope someone's laughing at that because it's pretty funny, but we're doing this Google Hangout, so it's cool. But I mean, it really gets to the point that if you have all these negative people around you, your self-doubt is going to kick in. And the second that self-doubt kicks in for an entrepreneur, your company's pretty much dead. I know it took me probably an extra year to get off the ground with the IM stuff just because people were in my ear constantly. And what happens, guys, and I promise this, when you actually start doing well, right, you are an absolute idiot when you start your business You are an absolute genius when you start to get commas in your checks. It's crazy. It's amazing. I don't think I'm that smart, right? I was a C student in high school. You know, sometimes I got B's. I'm a decent student in college. I don't know if that's because I outsourced part of the work, you know, but I don't think I'm like a brilliant person or like some kind of a genius. But every one of the people that I meet now all think I'm brilliant and call me this wonder child. I don't think I'm that. The first thing is that you got to I just outwork everybody, and then I outsmart. I outproduce people, right? And get together really good teams. So back to the point of wherever I was at, is that you really have to, you know, start to put some of these things in order in your own business, right? So let me just do a quick review, right? It starts off with the community. I mean, it really, really does. If you're not building a community, it's going to be hard to grow the business, really simply. And you have to think, you know, what is the reason we all start businesses? And the reason, if you're a smart entrepreneur, which I know everyone in here is, you know, the reason you start a business is to build a legacy and sell that business. Because if you don't sell that business, then it's not going to, you know, eventually we don't live forever at the end of the day, right? And so, you know, I always ask people, why do you start businesses? And everyone always says to make money. And it's like, well, that's the first reason you're failing miserably, because all you're doing is focus on money and not providing value. And then secondly, that the goal should be to sell the company one day. You know, from there you have to have capital. I mean, you have to be able to build your business so that it can fund itself. From there, it comes into the plan and the systems. I mean, you should literally have a 2-year plan. And from there, it gets to the team, and then it gets to making sure that you're head straight, so that's self-doubt. You know, and really be 100% committed to making sure that you run a productive company. So I'm going to take a quick 30-second break. Does anyone have questions so far? I told you this is going to be a kind of a different fun call than the normal, hey, let's talk about internet marketing stuff, blah, 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 blah. I don't know, I'm feeling fun. I'm feeling fun today. Does anyone have any questions? If so, you can just write them in the chat box. Nope. No questions? Anybody? 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 Well, I think. Well, if someone has a question, you can write it in the chat box or Skype, and I will get to it. All right. Let's see. Where do I want to go? Where should we go next, guys? Cool. So you have to think about, you know, I think the next part of this whole thing, and I'll probably, I don't know, let's say we'll go for another 15 minutes and then we'll wrap it up. But you know, I think that when it comes to the internet side of things, let's say, you know, really just had kind of an overall talk there just about, you know, how to grow these businesses just in plain sight, right? But when you talk about the internet side of things, it really does come down to the rules of 10. Now, what do I mean by the rules of 10? And this is something I don't know, made up a few years ago and really have just kept to myself. But the rules of 10 is really simple, right? To build a successful internet business, the first thing you need is a great product that shows people and gives the opportunity for people to get 10 different results. So that means that, very simply, if they were to go through the whole thing and do every single thing you talk about, they're getting 10 different results. Now, from there, the first part of the business, we talked about this earlier, should be to get to $10,000 in monthly revenue, right? If you are smart and wanted to follow a really simple way to do it, what you need to do is get 10 different good affiliates. Okay, so 10 results, 10 grand in revenue. To do that, you need 10 great affiliates. It's really simple. If the average affiliate, let's say, has a list of, I don't know, let's say 5,000 people, right? And you're converting at, I think the math is like 2%, right? So 10 people, 5,000, 50,000, 2%, $100 product, you're at $10,000 a month. I want to say that works out perfect. I'm not 100% sure. But that's exactly where you need to be. And so if you can get commitments from 10 good affiliates to launch a product, then you're going to get there, right? From there, it gets into having 10 great people on your team that can hold you accountable, whether it be mentors, whether it be friends, whether it be your parents, whether it be your kids. It doesn't really matter. But you have to have 10. And, I really have struggled to keep that number at 10. But if you can keep it at 10, that should be your biggest goal, right? And I'd probably say right now I'm back at that, if not higher. But you really need to focus on having a great team of people, from employees to mentors to partners, right? And so hugely, hugely, hugely important. So if you can just focus on those few things, building the internet business is actually pretty simple, right? And from there it comes down to actually doing the work. We live in an age where there's so many great tools to go and build these things. You look at lead pages, right? That can build your entire website funnel. You look at Infusionsoft. That can go and that can run your entire back end for a few $100 a month. And then you look at, how can I create a great sales message? Well, I don't know if you ever heard of R&D. Some people call it research and development. I call it rip off and duplicate, right? You can literally go and look at thousands of different funnels online that have already converted in your own niche and figure out how can you make it so that your own converts. And so, if you think about it, there really isn't any excuse to get the internet stuff successful. Now, it takes time and it takes practice and it takes being productive, like we talked about. But if you can follow these very few simple steps, which in my opinion are pretty simple, right? You can get these things going in a pretty short period of time. And so it comes down to following the system that we're kind of talking about tonight, right? And it really comes down to if you can get this stuff systemized and create a great plan, then you can be successful online. Now, the hard part's actually doing it, right? I think it's been amazing, right? I've been very, very blessed to live this life, and I was thinking about this the other day, like, man, this is, I was in 2 weeks ago, I was at a music festival, and then I flew to New York City just to be with my dad on Father's Day, and then I spoke at this event, and then we literally hopped on a plane back to Chicago to go see this DJ that my dad likes and I like, and we were with him until 5 o'clock in the morning, and I figured out some way in my head we were going to meet this DJ, and before you know it, we're hanging out backstage with this DJ, right? And my dad gets to meet him, and it's like the most excited guy in the world, and I'm super excited. It's just a great night. And I'm thinking, like, this life is crazy surreal, right? It's absolutely amazing, and I've been blessed to live it. Now, on top of that, doing this, I've been able to travel the world and speak to people all over the place, and I've shared pretty much the same type of message, and I've shared a lot about how to be successful online. And when I go back to those cities, for instance, I was at dinner with this lady last night, right? No need to say names, but she's seen my presentation 2 or 3 times, right? And I always ask the same question, how's your internet stuff going? And it's the same answer. Well, it's not really doing anything. And I'm like, well, if you have all the notes and you have all the blueprints and you have everything you need to know, why aren't you doing it? And I think that becomes the tough part for us, is that we decide to not do anything about it. We decide to write all this information down, put it on shelf help, and never do anything about it, never actually care about our success. We say we're going to be successful one day, but it's not any day soon. And so it's really focusing on how can you harness that inside energy, harness that power that you have inside of you to actually go out and do something and be productive and get these things rocking and rolling, right? And I think it comes down to, once again, getting a part of that team and becoming extremely accountable. And sticking to a very important rule of that, of creating a system and really truly following it. I think it's pretty rad and important stuff. Hold on, I got a bunch of questions. Let me look at these really quick. So Sue asked, do you have a resource for creating a plan or plan template we can follow? So I really don't. The last one that I did, if someone wanted to see it, I'd probably share it with a few people. I'd have to have you sign an NDA because it's about 36 pages long. And I kid you not, I wrote it in Microsoft Word. Now when I say like a plan, I literally mean just starting off with going to a Word document and just start typing. I mean, start typing until your fingers hurt so much that you can't type anymore, or that you don't have any other ideas. And then let it sit for a week, and then go back to it and do it a little bit more. And I think if you can, I mean, think about this, right? If you think about the average small business owner, if you ask them if they have a plan that even is 10 steps long, they're going to say no, most people, right? And I would say probably 90% of the people in this group, if you ask them, hey, do you have a plan for your business or plan for the company you work for, you know, and you said even 10 steps, they'd probably say no, right? So even if you just, after this call tonight, go and pull out, here's the 10 things that I'm going to do this year, and here's how I'm going to do them, you are light years ahead of everyone else. I hope that kind of answers your question. So, building network on internet and get money from this network different. Over 90% of Americans have a bad credit from financial crisis. How to get credit to develop business. Team is important. So you know, I'm probably the wrong guy to ask. I mean, believe it or not, I'm 22 years old. Pretty crazy, right? And I have no credit whatsoever. I went to Best Buy and had $100,000 in my account, but couldn't get a credit card because of my age. And so I have really not focused on trying to get credit. I focused on trying to provide value for a few clients at first and build cash, right? Build cash reserves so to be able to fund any type of businesses. Team is important. What is the best way to make money on internet? You know, there's a, I don't know, adult film is the best way to, no, I'm kidding, but really it kind of is. Best way to make money on the internet, it depends what niche you are. I mean, there's so many different ways to make money online. I don't know the best way. I mean, I can tell you the ways I've done it, right? But I think that, simply put, if you can provide value and provide a great service or great thing that provides a result for somebody, then you're going to have a lot of success. I mean, that's just very simply put. Most people focus on all about them and how they can make money instead of focusing on how can they, how can you actually provide service for them. And we've talked about this before. In this is that, you know, so many of us are product creators, and we think like product creators the entire time. If you can get out of that zone and think like a customer, you'll be a hell of a lot more successful. You know, I mean, and what that means is that, you know, stop thinking about making money and start thinking about what is it exactly that the customer needs, and going to that and really spending time focused completely on them. I hope that kind of makes sense. Does anyone else have questions? I'm all about the questions. Love to answer more questions. Sue and Noema, I don't know if I'm saying your name right, but hopefully I kind of addressed what you guys were trying to talk about. All right, so, you know, in closing on this, right, I kind of, you know, I don't know if it's closing, but close to closing, I kind of want to, and some of you probably think I'm doing crazy stuff right now, but I've just, you know, I don't know, I've had a crazy few weeks, and this call's been a long time coming, so I'm having fun, and hopefully you guys are learning a bit and getting a little bit inspired, right? You know, I kind of want to make a challenge to you guys, right? And it's crazy. We have a huge attendance on this call tonight, and I don't really know why, because attendance has kind of dropped up. We have probably 4 times the amount of normal numbers that we have tonight, which is awesome. But I really want to, you know, make the challenge that, listen, we're about to hit July, right? And I think that now is the time, right? For those of you that have been in the Success Room for a while and are still goofing off and doing stuff, you know, or come to the calls and learning, I want to challenge you to stop learning and start doing, right? I have learned, yeah, I'll never forget, you know, someone at a seminar told me to teach a course on how to run Facebook ads successfully. And so I created a course just for them, and the course is 1 sentence long, and the sentence was really simple: go run a Facebook ad. And what that meant is that, listen, I could show you some tips and tricks, but the easiest way to learn is to go out and do it, right? And I think if that we look at over the next few weeks of what, you know, to expect from us, is that the first thing is that you have to show up. I mean, you guys have to be here on the Wednesdays and have to be talking in the group and texting me and reaching out. And, if you don't reach out to me, I can't help you at all, right? It's very, very simple. Secondly, it's starting to, the things that you do, you need to present them to the group so they can critique them. And I really do challenge this. Quit learning all the time. I love learning, and I put a new challenge out to myself. I'm reading a book a week. I'm literally about to finish Branson's new book. He just put it out a few weeks ago, and it's like a 700-page book, and I'll finish it within 24 hours, right? So I'm all about learning. I love it. But at the same time, it's, I guarantee you from that book, I'll learn a few things and put them into action right away. And so you have to start becoming of that same exact mindset. And I have an absolute amazing mastermind coming in October. Absolute amazing mastermind coming up in October with some of the best internet marketers from all across the globe. That even if some of you wanted to sign up, you're not ready for it. And I would love to have a few of you be a part of that. But it's time to get on the horse and start writing now. I mean, it really is. And whether it be working on your client business or building a community from scratch or getting your online funnel set up, it's time to get going with this stuff. And this is really a challenge to some of the people in the SR group that have been in here for a year or 2 years and are just starting to get going. And I'm sure this replay will get quite a few, this video will get quite a few replays on in the Skype group. But it really is time to start connecting, start working, start being productive, change some of the habits around. And most massively important is that it's time to reach out. And so, it's my challenge to you that, I can't control it, right? I can't do it for you. But I think that everyone in this group's been given an absolutely amazing opportunity. And for those of you that are just joining us for the first time tonight, there's an amazing opportunity in front of you, but it's time to grab hold of it and do it. Other than that, I don't think, let's see, how long have I gone for? 40 minutes. I don't have really anything else to talk about tonight. I kind of wanted to just go over a few key things that have been, I don't know, not so much bugging me, but things that I've seen the last few weeks that I think some people are missing. I've been doing a lot more speech, and I've noticed what people are really craving, when people need, right? And so, getting together and I'll just review it one more time. Creating that community idea, putting together the capital so that you can actually run the business effectively, putting together the system and the plan to make sure that it works, even if that plan's just one page, and then getting a great team that can hold you accountable and help you grow. If you can just get those few things together, you'll have a lot more success in 2014 and the rest of 2014. And we're already more than 6 months in, so now it's time to get rocking and rolling. Does anyone have any questions for me? Okay, there's a few more. So Stan asks, how do I make money with Vimo? Well, Stan left, so Stan doesn't get to find out. Network marketing is simple. Recruit leaders. Recruit leaders, don't recruit followers. Thank you for the comments. Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Leanna. Hope things are really well. Thanks, Noema. Hopefully I'm not murdering your name. Promise I'm not trying to. Other than that, guys, listen, I think it's been a really great call. For those of you that want to, reach out to me, I'll post my number in here, and I hope some of you do, and that I can see how you guys are doing. If you call me, I promise I won't answer. But good question. I make jewelry and sell it online. How can I differentiate myself from thousands of other people doing that? So it's about, that's a great question. It's from Sandy, but great question. It really is, figuring out how do you carve out a niche, and so this would probably be a more in-depth conversation, but when you talk about jewelry, right? A following, a loyal cult following of customers. For instance, I bought all my jewelry from the same place for 3 years, right? I'm not a huge jewelry buyer, but when I do buy, they're expensive items, right? I like watches and that kind of stuff. I quit wearing them, but I still buy them. It's pretty fun. And the from there is because I have a great relationship. So it really is with the guy that runs it, and I know they make me feel special, right? So for you, it's looking over your entire business plan and figuring out what are the things that you're missing, and then how can you create a community that will have like a cult following with you. And so whether that means a certain demographic, 18 to 26, whatever it is, or 32 to 40, then do that demographic. Then grow from there, whether it's women or men, So the problem, I see with most jewelry people online, people that like resell jewelry and that kind of thing, they just put up a website and like cross their fingers, hope that people are going to come and buy, and they have like 1,000 different items. I think doing things like items of the week, getting an email list, actually building a funnel, those are ways that you can really kick some ass in jewelry. And I look at building the niche. If some of you haven't heard of this company, I just recently started going to this place called the Trunk Club. Now, the Trunk Club is a very boutique, custom clothier for, fancy words, right? For basically, their client is 24 to 30-year-old men who have a ton of money. And the average shoe is like $2,500, and they built an entire business on having a very attractive woman sales force that guys love to come in, they drink for free, and spend a bunch of money on clothes. And I literally think, as a case study, every single person should go check this company out, because what they're doing is ridiculous. I mean, they've grown 150% 2 years in a row, and are doing millions of dollars in sales and transactions out of literally just a small office building. And most of it, like I want to say 95% of the sales, are straight through the phone and straight through the internet, or internet as in people coming from the internet. So, I think if you can look at that model too, that could be very helpful for you. Anybody else have anything? Never mind sticking on. All right, guys, well, it looks like that's pretty much it. I don't see anything else that I missed. I think tonight was a great call, and hopefully that a few of us can touch base and you guys get rocking and rolling. And we're going to have some good stuff the next few weeks, so I'm excited for it. We got some really, I'm teaching at CEO Space, I'm pretty sure, tomorrow, so we'll probably add about 50 to 60 members into the group, which is really exciting. And we're going to have some fun. So everyone have a great week, have an amazing weekend, and we'll touch base soon. And I'll post the replay in Skype. All right, buddy. All right, everybody. Have a great night.